Hey, this is Joe from Home Studio Corner, and today I'm going to share with you some lessons I learned from ripping off Johnny Cash. No, I didn't really rip him off, but several months ago, later last year, I gave a challenge out to my VIP members, and I do the challenges too. And the challenge was to do a carbon copy cover of a song. So pick preferably like a famous song that we would have heard of, and then try to recreate that in your studio. If you've never done this before, I highly encourage you, put this on your to-do list because you will learn so much about songwriting, production, recording, mixing, the whole process, mastering even, just by listening in that sort of a mindset where you're trying to copy what they did. It's one thing to listen critically to a piece of music. So you can listen to music from I'm just going to enjoy this standpoint. You can listen to it critically where you're kind of analyzing what happens, which we all tend to do. But then there's listening in order to copy. And that's a whole different brain muscle that we don't tend to use a lot. I didn't realize how much I would benefit from doing a challenge like this until I sat down with a song and literally went measure by measure, listening intently to try to figure out everything that's happening in the production. And what was cool about this is I chose a song by Johnny Cash called Hurt. So originally written by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. If you haven't seen the music video or heard this version, you may want to pause this video and go watch it or listen to it. It's really beautiful. But it's a simple acoustic guitar arrangement of this really cool song. And so rather than trying to copy a big full band song, I decided, let me go with something simpler, something a little bit in my wheelhouse, because I love recording acoustic guitar, but something that's outside of what I've normally done. And so thus began the process. I want to share with you a few things that I learned and share with you little bits and pieces of it throughout. So there's two main lessons. The first lesson, I'm going to talk about several examples of this, is you've heard me say this before, but this song really represents that well. And that lesson is less is often more. If we take a listen to the beginning of the song, these are the guitars that I recorded for the song. Super, super simple. And that's how the original part goes as well. There's two guitars playing almost the same part, slightly different voicings for each guitar part, but they're leaving a lot of space in the part. If this was me, and I don't have a guitar handy, I would play boom doom ja doom doom jam boo doo da da doo doom da doom boom doom da 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 doom boom doo da da boo doom da doom boom. I would fill the space. But what happens with the actual guitars from this song? One, two, three, 4, 1. For like 3/4 of the measure, it just lets the chord ring out. And that's how the whole song goes for the verses. It's bum doom blang. Birdie diddy banana boom dum blang. And it just sits there. And what's cool is our brains fill in the gaps. So I recorded this along to a loop just so I could keep the timing right, like this. But once you listen to the recording, after the first couple of seconds or so, you don't need any sort of a rhythm because your brain fills in the gap. So bum dum blum, and my brain's going boom 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 da da doo doo da boom dum blank. So it's like this rhythm in our head that keeps going. To me, that is brilliant. There is no rhythmic part happening for those 3 beats, but we feel it intuitively because of what's going on in the arrangement. I love that. They underplayed rather than overplayed. I confess I am an overplayer a lot of the times. But this helped me kind of see the light a little bit when it comes to that. Another thing, less is more. You'll notice in this entire arrangement, all the tracks that I used are right here. There is a left guitar and a right guitar playing roughly the same thing, like I said before. There's the vocal, there's a piano track, and then there's these 2 little kind of flute sort of sounds that come in later. That's it. That's the whole song. And this song gets huge. We'll talk about that in a second. So the next thing that comes in on the second verse is this simple this simple piano part here on this Presence track. The only thing that's real. And it's literally playing this inversion of a minor chord That's it. And it plays it over and over. Here it comes again. And so I listen to this and I think, whoa, can't we play something more beautiful? Or a bigger chord, but it's just this little triad. And that's all that you hear. And that goes on until you get into the chorus, and then the piano part gets a little bit bigger. So then the piano just plays the bass line. That's handy, that's helpful. But it doesn't do much more than that. And then we get into kind of a turnaround section.
And you could have it all. Pile of dirt. I will let you down. I will make you hurt.
So much space. Those guitars are just playing down strum 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. There's no digga digga dum. There's no fancy rhythm. I had to practice so much restraint on this to copy it, and I feel like the song just blossomed because of that. Here's another part I never would have recorded myself, but it's been really fun to do. There's a simple little mellotron flute sounding part that comes in on the original.
Broken thought I cannot repair. Beneath the stains of time.
It's just like 2 notes. And I think it was probably originally like a mellotron sort of a sound, some sort of a synth thing. A flute combined with a mellotron-ish flute sound seemed to work for what I was trying to do. But those literally, that's the final part of the song. This big, huge arrangement, that's it. And then in the chorus, it literally just plays this one note the whole time. Check it out.
My sweetest friend.
So towards the end of the song, there's kind of a second chorus that happens. And as you can see, if you look at the waveforms, if I zoom them out a little bit, you can see things start to get bigger in this section here. The waveforms are getting bigger. This piano is just playing a straight octave thing. It's playing the bass line and then just an octave that just stays the same. And it just keeps clanging out quarter notes. And then the guitars get bigger. Check out what happens with these guitar parts. See, they got kind of big here, and then they dropped off. And then look, it gets to where I'm wailing on this guitar by the end of the song. And so you end up getting this that just has this huge, huge feel. And it's just an acoustic guitar, a second acoustic guitar, a vocal, and a piano. That's pretty much it, and the little mellotron thing. But you get a huge sound out of those simple 4 or 5 elements.
I will make you hurt. If I could start again, a million miles away, I would keep myself. I would find a way.
So right there at the end, you may have noticed that vocal sounds a little distorted there on I would find a way. Listen again.
I would find.
You hear kind of a sort of a buzziness to the vocal. That was probably my favorite part of this and leads us to our second lesson. The second lesson that I learned from doing this, there's probably like 1,000, but the big one was sometimes wrong can be right. Here's what I mean. If we listen to the original, which I've imported down here, listen to, let me turn it down so it's not too loud. Listen to how distorted this last section of the song sounds.
I will make you hurt.
You hear that sort of crackly sound? That's in the actual recording, and my guess is it's either something they did in the mixing process, like push the console really hard to get it to overdrive, or perhaps something that was done in mastering. I don't believe this would have been a mistake, but if you were to ask me, like send me an email that says, Joe, what do you think about distortion? I'd say, like if my tracks are distorting, I'd say that's probably bad, right? That's general wisdom. Let's not make things clip. That's a bad thing. Well, as it turns out, this Johnny freaking Cash has a song that has a whole lot of distortion in it. And so in my head, I was thinking, how can I replicate that here with this song? And what I did, I used a feature inside of Studio One called the Mix Effects engine, which allows you to kind of treat the entire mixing console as an analog console. And then I pulled up this Alpine desk and set it to boost mode and kind of cranked it a little bit so that it kind of introduces some of that kind of harmonic and even distortion if you crank it really hard. into the mix itself. That's something I would have never done. I would have said, that's too much, I broke it. But remember, my goal was to try to copy the Johnny Cash as much as I could, even though I can't sing like him, and ended up with this kind of cool distorted vocal sound.
I would find.
Now, it's not exactly the same, but it was a really fun process to try to figure out how can I replicate that. Turns out it's very replicatable. Hey, thanks for watching this video. What I hope you're feeling right now is like a sense of, ooh, I want to do that. Go pick a song. Make it a simple song. I'll tell you, I've done this exercise before, and one time I tried to do a carbon copy of One Headlight by the Wallflowers. Failed miserably. It's such a perfect recording, and I couldn't get close to it. So you pick something on the simpler side, and then give it an actual old college try. Like really put yourself into it and try to copy it as best you can. Not for the sake of saying I copied it, because I can see the comments now. Joe, I don't want to copy people. I want to make my own music. Right, of course. I didn't release this. I just made it, and it made me better. And I'm a better producer, better engineer, better mixer because of doing this process. And that's what I want for you. It's a really fun way to learn from someone else, especially someone like Johnny Cash, who's passed away. And I don't know who produced this. I apologize if you're watching this. You're not watching this. But learning from someone else's techniques and the way that they go about doing something, we have an endless supply of reference material to help us get better. And one of the ways that we can get better is to actually try to copy something that they did. So, whether you do this or not, I appreciate you watching the video. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Share this with a buddy who you think would get a kick out of this. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.